Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Dominion Gaming TV. My name is Wolf and I'm bringing to you an exclusive interview with these two handsome gentlemen to my left and right. Let's introduce yourself. What is your name?
My name's Joshua Philpott.
And you, good sir?
I am Handsome Dave.
Handsome Dave, that's his actual name.
Exactly. So, can you please tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Okay, well man, I started doing gaming as a games employee at a counter, so essentially selling them over there. Moved up into management and essentially realized that I kind of wanted to be a little bit more involved in the industry, so we basically moved into the media, and Dave and I are both big pushers of the fact that gaming is a fun and passionate industry, and we need to continue to maintain that. So we essentially decided that no one else was, not no one else, but not enough people. Thank you, Dave. No, not enough people were doing that. So essentially, we decided to make RawDLC, and that's what we do.
All right. Well, so you basically covered that, but explain what is RawDLC.
RawDLC is the Reese's Pieces of the games industry. We take the silky smooth chocolate stylings of Joshua Philpott and the nutty peanut buttery stylings of me. You mash them all together, and as we like to say in the world of vanilla reviews, we are the sexual chocolate. Look, it's something that it was born basically. I've been in the I've been playing games since, well, I'm old, so I've been playing games for like 30 years.
Very old.
And hated my job, hated everything, got into the games industry and realized there was a whole bunch of stuff that I couldn't say for various publications and all of that, because they have to worry about things like advertising and sponsorship and all of that sort of bullshit. We don't. So the type of stuff that we wanted to do was uncensored, raw. It's not that we run around and swear our heads off and do whatever the hell that we want. It's just that we say what we want to say, and we don't really give a crap if people. We don't go out looking for trouble, but we don't worry about it if it comes our way.
All right. So, where do you guys see the games industry in the future?
Well, I think that like we all see the push towards digital content, so I think there's going to be a lot more of that, and I know that some people really don't like that concept, but I think we all have to start accepting the reality that that's just what we're moving towards. I think that cloud-based technology is going to be a massive push soon. We see a massive amount of energy, especially if you've seen it kicking around online or talk to people. They're doing stuff with the Xbox demos at the moment where they show off a grid of satellites, and essentially that they can connect all these points together on a map, and then they show you with cloud and they can do like 10 times more, because essentially we can do that when we allow ourselves the ability to bring the net into it as well. So from a technical point of view, which is more where I sit, which is what I do on the site, essentially there is a lot of love towards that world, but then I think at the same time we've got a lot of push towards online gaming. We're all about community and social gaming, but I think it'll be nice to see in a good push. I don't care about the rest, like your Facebook crap and all that sort of stuff. Doesn't bother me at all, not interested. But you are going to get a push into online. I think that's going to be the really special part later on in the future.
All right. Yeah.
Wait, I didn't get to answer?
Oh, sorry. Do you have anything else to say, good sir? Handsome Dave.
Handsome Dave, thank you. Obviously, the future of gaming is the Xbox One. No, actually, the future of gaming is not shit marketing. That is the future of video games. Because if you actually dissect the Xbox One and what it originally wanted to offer, if Microsoft wouldn't have been as arrogant as they are and actually explained what the fuck it was for people, people would sit there and go, oh, so you're saying that if we do all of this digital stuff and all of this downloading stuff and all of our internet checks once a day, it will be like Steam and games would be cheaper? If they explained all of that, there would have been much less of a backlash. I think that there needs to be much more of an open dialogue between developers and publishers and the public, and a lot less yappity-yap bullshit of people doing like tabloid news, Woman's Day, New Weekly type of crap. It's like going to a Tom Cruise movie, right? I like watching a Tom Cruise movie. I don't care what he does in his personal life. If he wants to go around and be with men, women, enjoy Scientology, whatever, great. Good on him. I wish him all the best. That doesn't affect the movie that I'm watching, and that's the way that the games industry should be. That's what I see in the future, or hope for, God.
With the next generation of video game consoles being announced, do you see more innovation in the industry coming up in the near future?
Definitely. I mean, I can't speak for anyone else, but The Division is the game to watch as far as I'm concerned. Every other game is far, 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 far below. And that's the first bit of gameplay I've ever seen. We're looking at photorealistic graphics. You're looking at persistent online gameplay, but group gameplay, PvP, and all that type of stuff. It's like the genre walls are breaking down. This is where games need to be. I think there's going to be a massive push for online everything, which again feeds back into the Xbox One thingy. And I think that before you were limited graphically a little bit, then with the last or current generation of consoles, you're finally getting to the push of what they can achieve. As you saw, like PS2, you had San Andreas, just came out at the end of the life, and you're like, holy crap, this is what the PS2 can do. Great, PS3's out next month. Same thing with the PS4 coming up. And I think that probably the next 3 years will be the most exciting gaming years ever. Not initially, because there'll be bumps along the way and people won't know what the hell they're doing with these consoles. And I'm assuming with PlayStation's run, it'll be hard for people to code on it. But once they get through the teething problems, I think the next, like maybe in 18 months, it's going to be a really exciting time.
I think that the biggest push and the biggest thing about innovation is really going to come down to the users. I think one of the biggest problems we have in the industry right now is a lack of knowledge about what innovation means. Technology is a very dangerously giant concept, and people only know about this much, and they're adding about this much. And that just means that we sit in a place where we're limited. Like if you look at, again, sorry to keep backing on Xbox here, but it's like Xbox failed to point out their hardware abilities and focused on what it means to the punters, and that's not a bad thing, but the problem is that all of what made them so special is in that box, and they didn't spend any time talking about that. So we really have to start getting to a point where we have to stop making people give people the flowery version and start giving people the technological version of what it's going to be able to do and why it's so special.
One other thing I want to say is that I don't think tablet integration in games is going to be as bad as everybody thinks. I'm loving the competitive stuff they're putting into Watch Dogs. I like the idea of commander mode in Battlefield 4 and the integration they're doing with the Division. I think smart tablet use is going to be something that will really help a lot of gaming on the fly.
I really don't understand the hate for that, because it's like, to me, I look at it and it's like all it is another type of controller, and that just seems like a really arrogant thing to do, to essentially point at that and just give it hate. It's like we all thought controllers weren't as good as mouse and keyboards, and then people turned around and started winning tournaments with these things, and the whole world changed. I think people have to back off on that stuff.
What are you telling me, that people on the internet are spouting hate for no reason?
I imagine probably over this video, Dave.
Oh my God, fuck all those guys.
Indeed. So with the controversy surrounding Saints Row 4 and the classification and the anal probing and all that sort of jazz, what needs to change in the Australian classification to bring these games to us, and so that we aren't getting these censored games? Like, for example, there's plenty of people with the recent R18 plus thing who would love to have this game, but apparently we're still getting censored, even though our 18 plus consumers don't have a choice in this matter.
I think the problem is that there's not a firm understanding of what the guidelines are. People just assumed that once R18 came through, they were like, yes, no game will ever be banned ever again, and the heavens will open up. It's not like that. They're still using antiquated guidelines that are going on. Personally, I'll tell you now, if I was part of the general public, and me personally, not RawDLC, I wholeheartedly, Handsome Dave Kaziki, endorse you to do this. When Saints Row 4 comes out, import it and get it for $50 and play it, and then friend me on PS3 under Cozy Eye, and I will anal probe to your heart's content. But I do agree that, seriously, like, I actually back the fact that it got refused classification, because I think it is, lack of a better word, invasive, using an anal probe gun. And if you look at the guidelines, you can't put something with sexualized violence, whether it's comedic or not, sexualized violence, you can't put those together. And it's just something that people are like, oh, come on, man, this is bullshit. No, actually, if you understand what the guidelines are, it's in keeping with them. The problem is the guidelines need to change, and honestly, it's cheaper getting it overseas, so get the uncensored version OS. I believe OzGameShop.com.
I think the other problem that we have is that there's a real misunderstanding of how it's being handled from a PR side. And I'm not saying that everybody that does this is doing it wrong. Some companies do this great. But the biggest problem is when people go in, Left 4 Dead is a perfect example of how these people need to work on what they said. They went in and they could have called these people zombies, and they could have called them the undead. And they went in and called them the infected, and that meant that they were still human, which meant that the classification was refused. It wasn't about the violence, it was about the fact that they went in with the wrong guidelines, and they weren't taking in the guidelines to read how to get around that. I think that this is really something that needs to be addressed. It's like, because it's R18, like Dave said, we have guidelines in place. This is something they should have realized when they took it in. Refusing classification isn't necessarily the problem of the board now. These people are trying to work with us now. We have to start stepping up from a gaming perspective as well.
And also, seriously, when you're going to submit something for classification, simple. If you want to kill people and shoot them in the head, put it in a historical context, you can get away with it. Make them undead, zombies. If you're going to inject...
Or cell-shaded.
Cell-shaded. If you're going to inject yourself, make it with, diabetes medicine or happy juice. Don't make it morphine or heroin or any drugs. It's amazing how changing one word changes the entire layout of anything. Just be a little... I guess it's being more prepared. I'm not trying to shit on a lot of the PR people and the people who are submitting it for classification, because I know a lot of these guys.
They don't know that either. There's not enough help for that.
So, I mean, just be a little bit smarter and know what you're in store for when you come here. To be honest, a lot of games that are refused classification, it's not a surprise to us. You're just like, oh, wow, really? And it's raining in Melbourne today. Wow, what a shocker.
All right. So what made you guys get into games journalism in the first place? Josh, you sort of covered that briefly, but could you go in more in depth?
Oh, of course. So yeah, essentially I think the big thing for me was the concept that I'd gotten to this point where I was selling these games, and it's like, look, no disrespect to where I worked, it was just the matter that you needed to sell games. And selling games was kind of a problem for me because I felt like there wasn't enough support into why people should like this. So many people that I would have as regular customers, these people that I were building up these loyal fan bases with, were completely unaware about any game outside the major ones because we don't have enough support for the 7s and the 8s out of 10s, the games that are passion projects that may not be as good as the good one, but hell, you don't want to play Call of Duty for a whole year. Like this.
When did 7 and 8 become a shit score?
I know, right? Yeah. Like, this is a big problem for me. I don't understand why we hate on games so badly. It's like, look, you may not get them first time round, and we all understand that we have a limited amount of money. And with the year that we've had so far of games, it's amazing that anyone can afford games at the moment. But at the same time, it's like, if we're going to do this and we're going to have this love towards the gaming industry, it really has to come from us, and that really comes from only journalists. So we need to do that.
I'm not a journalist, I'm a writer. That's what I do. I don't do any hard-hitting investigative shit. I just write and review. I was actually really late to the game. I've never had any formal training. I haven't been to university. I haven't done any of that. Well, not for journalism. I haven't done any of that. I used to be a huge fan of Official PlayStation Magazine, and they put a call out in their little column 8 thing, which was like, hey, do you have the chops to do what we do? Send in an article and maybe you'd be part of the team. And I remember reading it, and I was married at the time, and I was talking to my ex, and I was like, man, it sounds like a fucking awesome job. I would love to do something like that. And she was like, well, why don't you? And I was like, that's a great idea. I'm so glad I had that. So it really was that simple. I just wrote a couple of articles. I sent it into Official PlayStation. Narayan Patterson, who's now a producer on Good Game, was my editor. And, being a typical editor, it took him 2 months before he read the submission. And I emailed him, nothing. And then one day I emailed him and he's like, dude, I'm actually reading what you wrote right now. And he's like, what are you doing tomorrow? Come in. I came in, I reviewed Predator Concrete Jungle. It was a piece of shit. I got it in about 2 days, and I started writing for Official PlayStation. After that, it was just meeting and greeting, knowing people, and pretty much the way that I worked my way into the industry is I get drunk at an event, walk up to somebody and go, your magazine/website is shit. You know what would make it better? Me. And that usually works for some reason. Either that...
I don't know how it works, but it does. I've seen it happen.
This is all true, by the way. This is not me telling a story. This is actually what happened. And then it would just be me spamming their inbox until it would be like, oh, for God's sake, let's just give Kaziki some work and he'll get off our case. But look, I've got to say, and I'm not trying to burst the bubble for people, if you want to get into the games industry and a games journalism, man, you pick the toughest, the worst paying industry in the world to get into. And as awesome as the perks sound, trips and free games and playing games, just remember there's a whole writing side to it as well. You've got to have a strong voice, and you've got to be not afraid to put your opinion out there. If you just like, oh, I'm a good gamer and I think I could do it, dude, good luck, because there's 80 million of you out there. You know, have a solid voice and don't be afraid to put yourself out there and be different.
Stay.
Yeah, that's it.
So what is your ideal game? What is your dream game? And what's the basic story? And where is it set?
All right, I would say it's a broad question, but I will say that if you were going to do an ideal game or a dream game for me, there's two things that I reckon would be the perfect games for me. One is something that's been brought up in kind of rumorousness before, which is the concept of combining everything that is Tom Clancy and pushing it into one world. We're starting to see it with The Division, and seeing that expand into something where someone can be flying Hawks jet, someone can be on the ground playing Splinter Cell, another dude can be running around in a team of 5 guys playing co-op. It's like this kind of experience would be absolutely phenomenal, and I think I would lose myself in that all the time. My other one would be whatever the next Skyrim is, because that game is never not there for me. It's like I can tune it at any stage and just go back to it, and it's just like coming home. It's like you walk into a world. I have homes. I have 3 of them in Skyrim, and it's like to see where they would take that next, even if it's not an online game. I know that Elder Scrolls Online is coming out, but to see the next step in that world, and especially on the next console, that is my dream game.
For me, even though it's a broken model, something that incorporates the kind of scope and breadth of Defiance, kind of like an MMO, but an MMO shooter with Battlefield-style destructibility, so you can fuck people up. Something that has absolutely no team deathmatch in it, or personal deathmatch, or anything. Something that actually would penalize you by not completing objectives if you're in team-based play. I would actually invent a game that would give you like a timeout in a corner for an hour or for a day if you played a game and didn't, you know, help your team out. If it was all something that just tells people, work together. Seriously, stop being a selfish prick and try play. You get so much more reward out of working together as a team than just feeding your kill-death ratio. Those are the type of games I like. I do like RPGs like Josh does, and his game sounds awesome, but I just like blowing shit up and working in a team.
So as a games journalist, is there any pressure from game development houses or producers or websites or magazines or publishers to write a review a certain way?
Look, no, I don't think that's a real unfair miscommunication. It's like, look, I don't think it's so much pressure to necessarily do that. Every now and then, look, it comes up at times, and you've seen it happen at times, but I think the biggest problem is not so much that, it's more just the fact that these people need to get the scores at a particular time. These people are just doing their job, just like everyone else in the industry, and it's like they're trying to sell the game, they're trying to get you all the information you need to make that review. I don't think it's so much a pressure thing. I think I've seen people suffer because of it, and look, me and Dave did get into this because we have seen this happen. Even here in Australia, it has been a problem before, but I think it's just one of those situations where they're not so much pushing for a score, they're trying to get their game the best score they can get, and I think you can understand that. Like, I can understand that. Dave?
I completely disagree. It depends on the publisher. It depends on who that you deal with. I'm not going to name names because I just don't think that's fair to single some in and single some out. But I will say that there are some publishers out there that you give their game, and even I'm talking AAA titles, you give their game an 8 and they're like, that is fucking awesome. I'm so happy with that 8. And you have other people who you give a 9 and they're bitching that they got a 9. And I've gotten phone calls from publishers, and I've gotten phone calls from them saying, okay, why was it a 9? And I was like, did you read the fucking text? Did you actually read it, or did you just see the number down the bottom? I don't think that as long as your text backs up your score, actually, you know what, not even that. I don't think you need to justify what you do. You don't call up a publisher or developer and say, you need to make this game to cater to me, and you need to justify and tell me why it wasn't as good as I was expecting it to. I don't feel they have any right to do that towards us. There's no pressure, and there's no incentives either. There's never a time where they're just like this. They said it on our panel yesterday. Oh, yeah. There's never been a time where I've never in 10 years in this industry gotten where people have gone, hey, if you give us a good score, we're going to give you this or whatever else. Not even like have a t-shirt, and do you know what I mean? It's never like that. It's one of the biggest misconceptions ever. And I've been on 20 to 30 press trips. I've been around the world. It has never once swayed my preview or what it's going to be or a review score or whatever. People don't need to understand that for a lot of us, especially a freelancer like myself, your name is your brand. My brand is Dave Kaziki. That's who I am. You know, Dave Kaziki, sorry, I should preface it. Dave Kaziki, writer for Official PlayStation Magazine, Hyper Magazine, Handsome
Dave.
Oz Gamers, Australian Penthouse, Game Arena. So these are all the places that I write for. Now, if I whore myself to whoever for a fucking box of gold or whatever else, all the people who have read my reviews and trust what I write will immediately stop trusting me. They'll be like, he's just on the dick. He's not, you know, I don't trust him. I don't want to read his reviews anymore. How does that help my brand? It doesn't. So the only thing you've got, and it's a strange thing to say, but all you have is your integrity. And if I've been thrown off magazines before because of stuff that I've written, I can't say for which, but I've had periods that I have not worked for certain publications because pressure from various publishers from stuff that I've written and all of that. So, you know, it's made me stick to my guns even more, and that's actually part of the reason why we started up RawDLC. Man, you have a lot of questions.
Yes.
Bring it.
1 second. Shit.
I should
Take
have
your
done two bags of gold for you for this interview.
Yeah.
Sound.
Afterwards, right?
Oh yeah.
Bags of
Yeah. So with the website like Metacritic, do you feel that scores? I know you've briefly talked over this, but do you feel like scores are important when reviewing games?
I think it's an unfortunate. We talked about this on the panel actually, and it's one of those things where I understand both sides of the card. I hate things like Metacritic because I think they're the laziest way to look for scores. It's like the very fact that people go to one site and look at one score, which is just the general average, is okay. I mean, like for someone that has no time, sure, it's nice that that thing exists, but the whole point is I like to get excited. I still read reviews now, and I read them, and it's not just because I'm in the industry. I prefer the fact that I like reading it because I look at that person's passionate experience of X game, and then I base whether or not I'm going to go out and get that based on that review, like based on the excitement or lack of excitement that provides me. It's like the fact that you're just going through, flicking to the bottom and reading a 9, it sucks. But for some people at the same time, yeah, that's all they can do. Some people don't have the time or don't really feel like reading, and someone's got to be able to help them too. Dave?
I think reviewers probably read more reviews than anyone else, really, because you read what your friends write or you read what your peers write, and you're like, what does this guy have to say? People you respect, you want to get their opinion, you want to find out what they're saying, what they're feeling. A lot of the time, I actually would love to do this as an experiment on our site and just do for like a week or like a month, do reviews that are just one screenshot and the number and the points to and for, like, you know, good, bad, like maybe 3 sentences, and just leave it up there, and then do a second review which is like 1,000 words with no score, and see which one gets more hits and more comments. To me, I think scores are bullshit because all it does is, first of all, it feeds the internet trolls where you get dickheads coming on going, man, why'd you give it a 7.5? It should have easily been at least a 7.775, and you know, I'm going to come around to your house and kill you now, and also you're an idiot and your mum's a whore. This is the type of crap that breeds it, and it's all bred because of scores. It really is. Anything that gets people talking intelligently, that's what I care about. That's where I'd like to see it. Josh and I were talking about doing pictures at the end of our reviews of just us holding up the game with just like thumbs up
or thumbs down. Yeah.
Or just like, you know, whatever, but just doing that so people could just see from our faces what our review is, rather than just get caught up on scores. But because of shit like Metacritic and whatever else, you've got to feed the monster and you've got to feed the trolls.
So with the free-to-play giant, which is League of Legends, and you got Team Fortress 2.
You better talk to him about this because I don't know shit about PC.
Okay, so PC man. So with the free-to-play, you got your PlanetSide 2, you got your League of Legends, you got all these things, and there's many problems with them. Yes, but what are your opinions on the free-to-play model in video games?
Look, I'm one of those people that hates them, and I have my valid reasons. Like, I understand that people like them, and I think that it's really great that...
I want to hear what your valid reasons are. What are those valid reasons?
My valid reasons are these, Dave. Essentially, I think that the concept of free-to-play is nice because it does bring in people, and it means that people don't have to fork the money out before they actually play the game. But my problem is that I've always looked at games, and I know that there's a hybrid of experiences for people, but when you isolate a game down to a single experience and you leave it as that, it's kind of like a movie or music album. It's like you are literally taking home an entire experience, and that's your experience. And then another one comes out, and another one comes out. And it's sort of like, I understand that that's $70 a year or whatever, and people may not want to play that, but it's sort of like, that's kind of where you get the art for it for me. It's like, to add on this whole pay-to-play after effect is kind of like, it has no ability to stop. All that stops it is whether or not people are willing to play it. And though I respect that those games can exist, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't, I'll never like them, because as far as I'm concerned, if I'm paying as I'm going along to play something, it's just not the way I want to play things. It's like, I want to sit down on my lounge room and have an end point. I want an experience, and that's just me as a gamer. So yeah.
I actually do have something to add. Sorry, but
opinions? Are they valid reasons?
I don't know. I'm not known as the clear-headed one. You're the clear-headed one. Look, everything that free-to-play doesn't bother me. To me, it's very similar to when you're playing something like Bad Company 2 or Battlefield 3, and say somebody like myself has pumped in 400 or 500 hours and gotten all of the unlocks and everything else, and then some guy comes in and EA releases, and I'm not just pinging shit on EA, I'm just saying this is one example of many who do that. Activision does the same, everyone. But you get that immediate unlock of like, hey, now you've got everything for Engineer and everything for Assault and everything for that. It's not fair to the people who have worked their ass off to get through all of that. And I look at a lot of the transactions and microtransactions in free-to-play. If it's a cosmetic change, fine. Go for it. Give me a cuddly toy and a tiger and an animal and a hat with, Handsome Dave on it. Awesome. Fantastic. But as soon as you start changing the fundamental gameplay, if it's to buy weapons that give you, higher damage or more armor or a better car or something like that, the second that starts happening, it becomes pay to play. And that's where I'm like, fuck you. It's not a level playing field. Or what they should do with this, and the same thing with Bad Company 2 or with Battlefield 3, is separate the servers. Oh, you've paid for free to play? You go on server A. All the people who have just got the boot up version right from the go, you go on to server B. Same thing with all of the Battlefield. Oh, you've bought the upgrade pack, great. You can play against other guys who took the shortcuts. That's fine. Let all the people level the playing field. That's all we've ever wanted in the games industry. That's all you ever want when you're jumping into a multiplayer match, is to play against people of not your own skill, but on a fair, where it's just skill versus skill. It's not wallet versus wallet.
Well, and that's a really interesting point, Dave, because it's like, I think that Yes, it is. Thank you. Yeah. So I think that one of the things that I really hate about that model as well is it breeds bad gamers, because essentially, I'm not saying in every case, but it's like, it's like you get this situation where you've got like, and I'm not picking people in particular, but it's like you get a mummy's boy, basically. You get somebody who's coming in and throwing like $500 on X game, getting the best of everything, and walking out on the battlefield with no knowledge or experience of the progression and how long that it's taken, and all of the insights and little intricate things that you've learned from the game as you experience it going up. The differences between knowing how to use the pistol and just use it as a pistol, and the guy who's using the gold pistol that fires gold tip bullets that kill you instantly. It's like, if you're throwing that kind of gameplay into an experience, you're not giving people the ability to enjoy the game. You're letting them cheat and just jump ahead, and I don't think that's fair. And it also, that's where all of the stuff you were talking about, Dave, with the bad co-op partners and the terrible people that are out for scores. These people have no interest in playing with friends to try and get to the progressive higher grade levels. They've just gone up there by throwing money at it. It's like, that's not how we game. It's not how we were supposed to do this stuff. Competitive gaming is supposed to be about fair, level playing fields, not giving people an advantage to jump ahead.
I would like to see, if that model happens, I would like to see them make bullets out of coins.
Yeah. Just literally, you can fire dollars. Just bang, 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 and they're instant
shot. $1 a shot every single time. Reload, $8.
Yeah.
All right. So Double Fine Adventures game, which, sorry, I completely fluffed out on their name.
Clusterfuck, I think.
Yeah, Clusterfuck, exactly. It was a huge success on Kickstarter. Up until recently, they released an article to the people saying, hey, we're running out of money, and we're not going to be able to make the rest of this game. So So, what are your opinions on feature creeping in games and the Kickstarter model as a whole?
I don't understand what feature creeping is.
Feature creeping is it especially comes from Kickstarter, where you exactly. So So like they'll say, okay, if you give us like $3 million, we'll give you this. If you give us $500,000, we'll give you this.
Okay.
And yeah,
As long as they hit the base target, as long as they deliver on what they said, you know, we're going to give you this, and they deliver that at the bare minimum, go for fucking broke. Our buddy Dan Hines, who I was on the awesome Stealth Gaming panel, he did his magazine, the Sneaky Bastards magazine, and they did the first issue, and they said, if we hit our target and get beyond, we'll start doing the second issue and work it, and we'll make it a 100-page magazine instead of an 80-page magazine. And they've hit those targets, and they've done it. These are the type of things, you know, if you can realistically hit it, sure, but it's just like a verbal contract and stuff like that. If you can't fucking deliver on what you say you're going to deliver, if you can't work out how to budget well, that's not the people who have invested problem. That's your problem.
That's essentially like turning around. Like you've promised something, and if you're saying that you're running out of money, then you didn't plan it correctly, because you've obviously not had the capital to finish the task that you said you were going to do. So I think that's really where it comes down to. It's like the concept is a scary model because it's kind of a bit free-to-play-ish. It's like we're essentially showing you this is the plan, if you want to back us you can. It's great in theory, but the reason that we've kind of had what we've had is because you need a company behind it, because shit happens. Like, we all know it. Your whole server room could get flooded by water and you need a new one. This is something that you need to factor in, and you need to set up like ways to get around that, things that can help you with these problems. I think by paying free to play and entirely working on a money regime where you're getting it in advance for something that you're paying off, just make sure that you've already got capital to back up whatever other things could go wrong, because that's not the responsibility of the investors. If you tried to go to an investor and just go, look, we're not going to give you what you want, we just can't do that, you're not delivering, and that's always going to be a problem.
It also breeds you don't have a good feeling about it. It's just like a guy who's like, hey man, I got this game for you, it's $20. And then you give him $20 and he's like, hey, it's now $30. What happened to the $30? What happened to the 20? Yeah, I kind of used that already, but now it's like an extra $10 for delivery. Like, okay, well, here's $10. By the way, I didn't have enough money to print the disc for you, so I need another $10. Do you know what I mean? Like, or if you're having problems, be transparent right from the start. We over budgeted, we under budgeted, or this happened, or that happened. Let people know, but don't just come out. I mean, look, I don't know the story. I haven't followed it because I'm not so big on the Kickstarter and the indie. I like the idea as a concept, but I haven't been following it. But it's one of those things where it's like you've got to deliver on what you say you're going to do. That's just 101 in business.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it also comes down to the people that are throwing money into this project. Like, it is kind of like, look, it is literally like investing. That's essentially what's happening here. And it's like investors need return, and that becomes your responsibility. And you don't want the lawsuit of 100 million people that have put money into your company that you can't reach. That's not a good thing. And like Dave, I haven't followed it as a general concept right down to how it's all run, but I think at the same time, it's just not a good business model if that's going to keep happening. So we just got to keep our eye on Kickstarters. It's like, if this is a regular problem, then it's not cool. If this is a once-off thing, then we're all going to have to look at it as an individual thing.
I'm looking forward to their response to it, which is going to be their Kickstarter project to save their Kickstarter project.
Yeah. Well, actually, they've even started their second game for the pre-production team as well. So how do you feel what are your opinion on them starting their second game, Double Fine's second game on Kickstarter, when they haven't even finished their first one and having budgeting problems?
The two of them, it's mutually exclusive. You know, part of me is like, well, it's the same developer, but I'm sure that they probably have two completely different teams dealing with it. And to me, it doesn't sound like a developer issue. It sounds like a management issue. And that's where they're lost at. It's a tricky thing, because what do you say? Well, to all those people who paid money for the one game, it's like, well, okay, we're going to take the money from this second game, which they may still deliver. You don't know. Yeah. You know, deliver on one of them. You know, they need to kick a goal on one, but I think that they're two separate ideas. It'd be like Need for Speed running out of money and Battlefield doing, you know, awesome. And then people are like, well, fucking take some of that Battlefield money and put it into Need for Speed, you know? No, it's a completely different studio.
Yeah, no, totally.
All right. Is there anything else you guys would like to say before we end this?
No, just make sure that you're following Games for Games and don't get lost in the unnecessary bullshit politics. That's essentially the number one thing I'm trying to tell people at the moment. It's like there's a whole lot of distractions happening, and we were all supposed to be gamers, and we're supposed to be here for games. That's it. That's all.
I want to say that save the tabloid shit for the tabloid shit, you know? Get behind games and support games. Have opinions. Don't open a dialogue, have a discussion with people. Don't yell your idea and ram it down people's throat. Some of the best conversations I've ever had with gamers and with people that I'm in the industry with are when we completely disagree on a game. And it's not where we sit there going, you're a fucking idiot and you're a dickhead. We sit there and go, why didn't you like it? Or why did you like it? And then often you walk away and go, I don't agree with you, but I'm thinking about it now. And that's where we need to be. Enough of the hate and the cheap, easy shots. You know, I hate that type of stuff. I absolutely hate it. I don't even read comments anymore on anything that I write or anything that other people write, because it's just hate, 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 hate. One insightful comment, then hate against people who are doing insightful comments, and it just drives me insane. The other thing is, of course, if you want to check out the best gaming stuff you can find, you should check it out at www.rawdlc.com.
Well, you took the right question, my last question right out of my mouth. So, thank you very much, guys.
Welcome, man.
Awesome interview.
Yep.
And yeah,
Wasn't it?
cool. Handsome Dave here. Thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys next time.